Why do bad people always win? It is a question born from weariness, frustration, and a deep-seated sense of injustice. We see it in headlines, in fiction, and sometimes, heartbreakingly, in our own lives. The ruthless climb the ladder, the dishonest amass fortunes, the cruel wield power, while the kind are exploited, the honest overlooked, and the compassionate crushed. The cynical conclusion seems inevitable. Bad people always win. This sentiment is more than a fleeting thought. It is a pervasive doubt that challenges our belief in fairness, merit, and the very possibility of a just world. It forces us to look closely at the dynamics of power, the nature of morality, and the complex, often uncomfortable truths about human behavior. Deconstructing the premise, who is bad and what is winning? Before we can even attempt to answer why bad people seem to win, we must first grapple with the slippery definitions embedded in the question itself. What do we mean by bad? Is it someone who causes harm intentionally? Someone who acts purely out of self-interest with no regard for others? Someone who breaks rules or societal norms? The spectrum of badness is vast, ranging from petty dishonesty to systemic oppression and outright malice. Our judgment of who is bad is often subjective, colored by our own values, experiences, and the specific context of their actions. A pragmatic leader making tough, unpopular decisions for the perceived greater good might be seen as bad by those negatively impacted, while someone universally condemned for cruelty might still have allies who justify their actions. Equally complex is the definition of winning. What does victory truly entail? Is it wealth, political power, fame and recognition? The ability to impose one's will on others? Or could winning also encompass less tangible outcomes like happiness, peace of mind, strong relationships, or a sense of purpose? When we say bad people always win, we often focus on external metrics of success, the accumulation of resources, status, or control. But is this the only or even the most meaningful form of winning? Acknowledging the ambiguity of these terms is crucial, for it suggests that the premise itself might be a simplification of a far more nuanced reality. The allure of ruthlessness and the dynamics of power. Despite the definitional challenges, the perception persists that certain negative traits seem advantageous in the pursuit of conventional success. Why might this be the case? One explanation lies in the very nature of power dynamics in competitive environments. Whether in politics, business, or even social hierarchies, the pursuit of dominance often requires difficult choices. Those who are unbound by conventional ethical constraints may be willing to employ tactics, deception, manipulation, aggression, exploitation that those with stronger moral compasses would eschew. In a system where the goal is simply to accumulate power or resources, a willingness to do whatever it takes can be a significant, albeit morally costly advantage. Ruthlessness, a lack of empathy, and a singular focus on one's own goals can enable individuals to make decisions that benefit them at the expense of others without hesitation or guilt. They may be more willing to take risks, betray allies, or exploit vulnerabilities because the internal cost, like remorse or moral conflict, is lower. This allows them to move faster, act more decisively, and navigate complex, competitive landscapes with fewer internal constraints than someone striving to act ethically. Machiavelli in The Prince famously advised rulers to be willing to act against traditional virtues, to be deceitful, cruel, or cunning when necessary, arguing that maintaining power often required such actions regardless of conventional morality. He observed the effective truth of politics, suggesting that adhering strictly to ethical ideals could lead to a ruler's downfall, implying that sometimes acting badly was the path to winning in the political arena. Furthermore, systems themselves can inadvertently reward these traits. Competitive markets that prioritize profit above all else may incentivize companies or individuals to cut ethical corners. Political systems that prioritize winning at all costs can reward divisive tactics or the spread of misinformation. In environments where external success is the primary metric and accountability is weak, traits associated with badness, aggression, dishonesty, selfishness can become instrumental tools for getting ahead. Philosophical reflections on justice and the unjust life. The question of why bad people seem to succeed has been a central theme in philosophy for centuries. Plato, in his monumental work The Republic, grappled directly with this issue. Through the character of Thrasymachus, Plato presents the cynical view that justice is simply the advantage of the stronger, and that injustice, if practiced skillfully and on a grand scale, is more profitable and leads to a happier life than justice. Thrasymachus argues that the truly successful person is the one who commits injustice but has the power to avoid punishment and even redefine their actions as just. He paints a picture of the perfectly unjust tyrant who has absolute power, suggesting they are the happiest because they can take whatever they want and are beholden to no one. Plato's entire project in the Republic is in part a counter-argument to this perspective. He seeks to demonstrate that justice is not merely an external agreement or a tool for the strong, but an internal state of the soul, a harmony of its different parts. The unjust person, according to Plato, even if they gain wealth and power, has a disordered and conflicted soul. They are ruled by their appetites or their aggressive spirit rather than by reason. Therefore, despite their external wins, they are fundamentally unhappy, unstable, and enslaved by their own disordered desires. The just person, in contrast, has an ordered soul and achieves a truer form of happiness and fulfillment regardless of their external circumstances. Plato argues that true winning is achieving this internal harmony, which is only possible through justice. Machiavelli, writing much later, offered a different, more pragmatic lens. While not necessarily endorsing badness as morally good, he observed that the effective reality of power often required rulers to act in ways conventionally considered immoral. His advice in The Prince is not about how to be a good person or achieve a just society in a moral sense, but about how to gain and maintain political power in a dangerous and unpredictable world. He separated political expediency from private morality, suggesting that a ruler might need to be feared rather than loved, to break promises when necessary, and to be cunning like a fox and fierce like a lion. Machiavelli's analysis contributes to the perception that traits associated with badness are often effective tools for winning in the arena of power, even if they are morally questionable. The role of human nature and societal structures. Philosophical views on human nature also inform this question. Are humans fundamentally selfish, driven primarily by self-interest, as a Hobbesian view might suggest? If so, then behaviors we label bad might simply be the most efficient means to secure one's own survival and advantage in a competitive world. Or are humans capable of altruism, empathy, and cooperation, with badness being a corruption or deviation from a more benevolent core? If there is a strong component of self-interest in human nature, then societal structures must be robust enough to incentivize ethical behavior and punish unethical conduct. When these structures, legal systems, social norms, cultural values are weak, corrupt, or unevenly applied, the inherent self-interest or darker tendencies can flourish unchecked. Systems that allow powerful individuals to operate above the law or that prioritize profit over human well-being create environments where bad behavior is not only possible but sometimes even rewarded, reinforcing the idea that it leads to success. The problem may not be that bad people are inherently destined to win, but that certain systems are structured in a way that makes it easier for ruthless or unethical behavior to achieve certain kinds of victories. Challenging the narrative, do bad people always win? It is crucial to challenge the sweeping generalization that bad people always win. While instances of injustice and the success of the unethical are undeniable and deeply painful, the narrative that this is the only or universal outcome may be an oversimplification born of focusing only on certain types of winning and perhaps falling prey to a form of observational bias. Consider alternative metrics of winning. Does accumulating wealth or power through deceit and exploitation bring genuine happiness or peace? Often those who live by such means are plagued by distrust, paranoia, and the constant fear of being exposed or overthrown. Their relationships may be superficial, based on utility rather than genuine connection. From a Platonic perspective, their souls are in disarray, regardless of their external achievements. Furthermore, the wins of bad people are not always permanent. Empires built on cruelty collapse, financial bubbles based on fraud burst, and leaders who rely on fear eventually face rebellion or isolation. While justice may not always be swift or certain, unethical behavior often creates its own long-term liabilities: a lack of trust, a network of enemies, the constant need to maintain deception. The win might be fleeting, leading to eventual downfall or a legacy of infamy. Finally, we must acknowledge the quiet, often less visible victories of goodness. Ethical behavior builds trust, fosters genuine relationships, and can lead to sustainable positive change within communities and organizations. People who prioritize integrity, empathy, and cooperation may not always achieve the highest levels of conventional power or wealth, but they often build lives rich in meaning, connection, and a sense of contributing to something larger than themselves. These are forms of winning that are arguably more profound and lasting than external accumulation. The teacher who inspires, the caregiver who brings comfort, the activist who fights for justice against overwhelming odds, their impact may not always be measured in power or wealth, but it is a vital form of success that the cynical narrative of bad always wins overlooks. Conclusion: the ongoing struggle for justice. The question, why do bad people always win, reflects a painful truth about the world. Injustice is real, and sometimes it seems that those who act without conscience are better equipped to seize certain kinds of power and success. Philosophical thinkers like Plato and Machiavelli offer valuable insights into the dynamics at play. Plato highlighting the internal cost of injustice regardless of external gain, and Machiavelli pragmatically observing how amorality can be an effective tool in the pursuit of power. However, the premise that bad people always win is a cynical oversimplification. It often defines winning too narrowly, ignores the long-term consequences of unethical behavior, and overlooks the many forms of success that are not measured in wealth or power. The struggle between good and perceived winning is not a foregone conclusion. Ultimately, the prevalence of this question serves as a reminder of the ongoing human project: to build societies and systems where ethical behavior is not a disadvantage, where justice is not merely the advantage of the stronger, and where true winning is understood in its broadest sense, encompassing not just external success, but also integrity, community, and the flourishing of the human spirit. It is a call to resist cynicism and to actively strive for a world where goodness has the opportunity to prevail.